The opening day of deer season is a tradition like no other. Camps and farms fill up with friends and family, all waiting for opening morning. In November of 2009, opening day started in southern Ohio just like any other opening day. The morning was chilly with some frost on the ground as hunters everywhere stormed the woods looking to fill some tags. When Brian Stevens pulled up to his 180-acre family farm that morning, he had no clue that his life would change forever just a few hours later.
All right, our next buck, I know I'm not supposed to, you're not supposed to have favorites whenever you have a collection and stuff, but I have to say the Brian Stevens buck is one of my favorite bucks, if not my favorite. I've seen a lot of big deer when we were collecting all these, and when I met up with Brian to get this replica, he had it in the back of his car. He actually said, I have a replica, I actually even have one on a mount. And he pulled that out of the back of his truck. Like, it just seemed like that deer just got bigger and bigger the closer it got to me. It scored 232 inches on Boone and Crockett and 249 6/8 in the BTR Buckmasters. But you got to see the left side of this. Everything about it is just so massive. The left antler, the main beam is over 35 inches. And on the right side is 34 inches. It's 34 and an eighth. And I've told that's the largest main beams on either side, 1 and 2, is on this buck. But his left side scores 97 inches. And if you see, it's just a 4-pointer. So it's just 4 points on one side is 96 inches. So if he matched that on his other side, you know, you're looking at 194 inches plus, you know, your 24, 25 inch spread. You're looking at a 220 inch 8-pointer. It's just unbelievable deer. And to see that in person, you know, Brian was hunting with a bunch of friends with his muzzleloader, and he said they knew there was a couple big deer on the property. They did not know this deer was this big. And I mean, I remember seeing him in front of the Ohio regulations in 2010 holding that thing up, but to see it in person and to see it matched up with all the other state records, you know, this thing's not one of the, you know, it's not one of the top 5 deer here in Ohio, but you know, you're still talking it's a top 15, top 20 deer. But to me, it's like I said, it's got to be one of my favorite bucks we have in this whole collection.
Shortly after Brian crawled into his stand on opening morning, he spotted a doe running through some thick cover with a giant buck following close behind. After 20 minutes of watching the duo run through the thick brush, the buck chased the doe up the wooded hillside, and just like that, he was gone. The rest of the morning was action-packed for Brian, with 7 different bucks chasing does coming past him. Brian stayed disciplined, though, hoping that the giant would run by again. He climbed down around noon to get a quick lunch and was back in the woods within an hour. Within minutes of climbing back into the stand, a large coyote made the mistake of walking by him at 30 yards. A couple of hours went by before Brian saw anything else. Around 3:30 in the afternoon, a large group of does came running across the field, being harassed by a small 3-point. While watching the group, Brian caught some movement out of the corner of his eye. The giant buck had returned, trotting down a fence line heading right towards his stand. The buck came into the field to check out the commotion and began working a scrape in the field edge 85 yards away. Brian raised his inline muzzleloader, settled the crosshairs on the buck's vitals, and squeezed the trigger. As the smoke began to clear, he watched the buck run across the field, start swaying, and finally go down. The giant buck had made it less than 100 yards before falling over. He waited for 30 minutes before climbing down out of the stand, and the animal got bigger and bigger as he approached the giant buck. He couldn't believe his eyes at how big the buck actually was. The rack is truly incredible. Main beams are 35 1/8 inches and 34 1/8 inches, making this buck the #1 in the world for main beam length. The left G2 comes in at a staggering 17 6/8 inches with an inside spread of 24 3/8 inches. After the 60-day drying period, the rack grossed Boone and Crockett 250 1/8 inches, netting a final score of 232 5/8 inches. Deer like this are truly once in a lifetime, but it seems like Ohio's producing once in a lifetime bucks every couple of years. Is Ohio going to be the next state to challenge the Hanson buck for the world record? Only time will tell.